Mia Summers had always been the center of attention. She was the woman everyone admired, the one who seemed to have it all: beauty, charm, and a life that appeared straight out of a dream. She had a loving boyfriend, Thomas, a successful career as a real estate agent, and a group of friends who would do anything for her. But Mia wanted more. She wanted something that would make people believe her life was perfect, not just in the eyes of others, but in her own heart. And so she decided to fake a pregnancy. It wasn't a decision made lightly. For weeks, she had planned it meticulously. She thought of every detail: how she would announce it, how to make it believable, and what would happen once everyone knew. She'd overheard people talking about her biological clock ticking, her friends urging her to settle down, but that wasn't her true motivation. She didn't want a baby. Not really. She wanted the attention, the sympathy, and the validation that came with being pregnant. Her first step was convincing Thomas. He had been pushing for marriage, and though Mia had often played along, the idea of a wedding didn't excite her. But a baby, that was different. A child would keep him tied to her, and it would buy her time to keep the illusion of a perfect life intact. She started pretending to feel sick, pretending to have cravings, and gradually her story began to take shape. Thomas, of course, was ecstatic. He couldn't believe it at first, but Mia was convincing. The excitement on his face when she showed him the positive pregnancy test was palpable. He immediately began planning their future together, buying baby clothes and discussing names. Mia smiled sweetly, letting him take the lead, playing the role of the supportive girlfriend. But deep down, she knew it was all a lie. What Thomas didn't know was that Mia hadn't actually taken a pregnancy test at all. The one she showed him had been stolen from a friend's bathroom, a test that had been used and left behind, the results already visible on the stick. Mia knew she had to maintain the facade of the pregnancy, so she had no choice but to go along with it. But deep inside, she started to feel trapped. As the weeks went on, Mia found herself spinning more elaborate lies. She faked morning sickness by inducing it with food poisoning from questionable takeout, hoping Thomas wouldn't ask too many questions. She'd attend doctor's appointments where she pretended to get ultrasounds, relying on her charm and acting skills to convince the staff that everything was progressing normally. She even went as far as hiring a fake doctor who would give her the right papers confirming her pregnancy. Things were going well for a while. The news of her pregnancy spread quickly. Friends and family were thrilled, and Mia relished the attention. She posted updates on social media, showing off her growing belly with carefully staged photos that only revealed her face and arms, never her midsection. She had convinced herself that she was doing this for her own good. She needed this to feel important, to feel like she mattered. But then things started to get complicated. One evening at a party, Mia made the mistake of having a few too many drinks. She had been careful not to drink in front of anyone who might be suspicious. But in the moment, the temptation was too strong. Her best friend Jessica noticed the way Mia was behaving and pulled her aside. "Mia, are you sure you're pregnant?" Jessica asked, her voice filled with concern. "I mean, you've been drinking and I know it's your choice, but I just don't want you to hurt yourself." Mia froze. She had been caught. The cracks in her carefully constructed world were starting to show, and Jessica wasn't the only one who had started to notice. At a family gathering, her mother asked her why she hadn't felt the baby move yet. "It's too early, Mom," Mia had said, but deep down she knew she couldn't keep this up much longer. To cover her tracks, she came up with an excuse. "I've been stressed," she said. "The baby's fine, I just need to rest." But Mia wasn't resting. Instead, she was spiraling. She couldn't stop the constant fear that someone would find out. Every morning, she had to remind herself to stay in character, to keep up the lie just a little bit longer. It was exhausting, and the guilt started eating away at her. Then came the news that would change everything. One day, Thomas came home early from work, his face pale, his hands trembling. "Mia, I have something to tell you," he said, his voice shaking. "I've been talking to my friend Lucas. He's a doctor, and he told me that there's no way you could be this far along without feeling the baby move by now. I don't understand. Why haven't you told me the truth?" Mia's heart sank. The walls were closing in on her. The web of lies she had so carefully constructed was unraveling, and she knew that she had only one option left: run. Mia had always thought she could control the situation. She had orchestrated every detail of her fake pregnancy meticulously, down to the smallest lie. But standing in front of Thomas now, seeing the disbelief and hurt in his eyes, she realized how quickly things could spiral out of control. The question hung in the air, thick with accusation. Why hadn't she told him the truth? Her mind raced. The walls, which had once seemed like a comforting fortress, were now suffocating her. How long had she been pretending? How far had she pushed herself? Her voice faltered as she spoke, trying to come up with a plausible excuse. I've been feeling stressed, she said, her words tumbling out in a rush. It's just been really hard with work and everything else. I haven't been feeling the baby move, but I'm sure everything is fine. Maybe it's too early for me to feel it. The doctor said it could happen later. Thomas didn't look convinced. He took a deep breath and looked away, pacing around the room. His face had softened, but the hurt was still visible. Mia, we've talked about this. You've always wanted to be a mom. We talked about our future. If you're scared, you can tell me, but this isn't like you. Something's off. Her heart hammered in her chest. She hadn't expected to be caught in such a lie, not this soon. She had always been careful, too careful to let anyone see through her facade. But now, with Thomas's suspicions rising, everything felt fragile. She had built a perfect world out of falsehoods, and now it was all coming undone. I'm scared, Thomas, Mia said, her voice breaking as she reached for his hand. I don't know how to be a mom. I didn't think it would feel like this. I thought I'd be excited, but now I feel overwhelmed. I didn't want to disappoint you. For a moment, Thomas seemed to soften. He looked down at her hand in his and sighed. You're not disappointing me. I just want you to be honest with me. We can get through this together, whatever it is. But we need to talk about this. If you're not ready for a baby, that's okay. We can figure this out. But Mia knew she couldn't admit the truth. Not yet. She had to keep up the lie. It was the only thing that kept her in control. She wasn't ready to give up the attention, the adoration that came with being pregnant, with being the woman everyone pitied and adored. And more than that, she wasn't ready to give up the future she had imagined for herself, one where she was seen as perfect, untouchable. I'll go to the doctor again, okay? She said, her voice steady now. I'll get another checkup, and we can be sure everything is fine. I'll make sure we're okay. Thomas hesitated, but then nodded. I just want to be sure, Mia, for both of us. That night, as Thomas fell asleep beside her, Mia lay awake in the dark, her mind spinning. She knew she couldn't keep up the charade for much longer, but what choice did she have? The truth would destroy everything. The following days were a blur of lies and half-truths. Mia visited the doctor again, pretending to undergo tests. But in reality, she'd switched her appointments with the local clinic and had a nurse sign off on the papers she needed. Everything was becoming more elaborate. Every detail needed to be perfect, but the pressure was starting to wear on her. The pretending, the constant fear of being caught was taking its toll. Her friends, her family, everyone who had been congratulating her was now starting to ask the hard questions. They noticed the small inconsistencies. They noticed that her stomach wasn't growing as it should be. They noticed that Mia wasn't showing signs of pregnancy that should have been obvious by now. Her best friend Jessica was becoming more persistent. He kept asking her how the pregnancy was progressing. Are you getting the baby room ready? How's the morning sickness? You haven't posted anything in a while, Mia. Everything okay? Mia's stomach tightened every time she was around Jessica. She felt like a fraud, constantly waiting for the moment her friend would uncover her deception. But there was something else now, a creeping feeling of dread. The lies were too many. The cracks were becoming impossible to ignore. She had put herself into a corner, and there was no way out. One evening, Jessica invited Mia out for dinner. It was supposed to be a casual meetup, but Mia felt the weight of the invitation like an impending storm. She knew Jessica wouldn't let her off easy. She would ask the questions, dig deeper, and Mia wasn't sure how much longer she could keep the act up. At the restaurant, Jessica wasted no time. Mia, I've been thinking. You've been saying you're almost in your second trimester. but you haven't mentioned anything about feeling the baby kick. And don't take this the wrong way, but you don't seem to be showing as much as you should be by now. Have you been to your doctor again?" Mia froze. It was the moment she had feared, the moment everything was hanging by a thread. Jessica's gaze was intense, her concern evident. Mia's hand shook slightly as she took a sip of water, trying to steady herself. She needed a way out, a way to maintain control over the situation. "I'm fine, Jessica," Mia said, forcing a smile. "I've just been busy with work and everything. The doctor said I'm fine. I'll feel the baby move soon. It's just a slow process, I guess." But Jessica wasn't convinced. "Mia, I'm your friend. You can tell me if something's wrong. I'm worried about you." Mia's heart pounded. The lies were becoming harder to maintain. She could feel the weight of her deception pressing down on her, suffocating her. She had to stop the lies from spiraling further. She had to find a way to put an end to it all before it all came crashing down. Meanwhile, Thomas was getting more suspicious. Mia had expected him to drop the issue, but he didn't. One evening, he handed her a piece of paper. "Mia, I know you haven't been feeling the baby move, but I did some research. There's something off about all this. I think we need to get a second opinion. You need to tell me the truth." Mia's world began to unravel. The lies had grown so complex, so tangled, that she was no longer sure how to extricate herself. She couldn't keep up the charade any longer. She had to do something drastic. "Thomas, please just trust me," Mia said, her voice shaking. "I'm not lying to you. I'm just scared. I need time." But Thomas wasn't buying it. The look in his eyes had changed. He wasn't angry, he was hurt. "Mia, you're not the woman I thought you were. I don't know what's going on, but this isn't the truth." Mia's heart dropped. She knew this was it. The truth was about to come out, and there was no escaping it. The illusion she had so carefully crafted was about to shatter. And as the truth hung in the balance, Mia realized one thing: she had gone too far to turn back. The next few days felt like a blur for Mia. Her mind was a cacophony of guilt, fear, and confusion. She had reached a breaking point. Every lie she had told seemed to echo in her head. Every false promise, every fabricated excuse, every desperate attempt to hold on to the illusion. She had tried to control everything, but now she couldn't even control herself. Thomas's confrontation had shaken her to her core. For the first time, she saw the cracks in the perfect life she had built. The world she had created was crumbling, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Her body felt heavy with the weight of the deception, and no matter how hard she tried to push the truth back down, it threatened to break free. It wasn't just Thomas she was worried about anymore. It was Jessica too. Her best friend had been so kind, so supportive, but now she had started to question Mia's story. Every time they spoke, Jessica's eyes seemed to hold an unspoken question. Was Mia really pregnant? Was she lying? And if so, why? Mia sat at her kitchen table, staring at the empty cup of tea in front of her. She had spent the last hour crafting a message to Jessica, trying to explain everything, trying to keep the facade intact. But every time she typed a word, it felt like she was digging herself deeper into a hole she couldn't escape from. She had to do something. She couldn't let this spiral further. What? How could she possibly undo everything she had done? Later that afternoon, Thomas came home early. His footsteps were heavy as he entered the door, and Mia's stomach twisted in knots. She had no idea what to expect from him now. Was he going to leave? Was he going to press her harder for the truth? "Mia," he said, his voice soft but firm. "We need to talk." She nodded, unable to meet his gaze. The tension between them felt suffocating. This was it. This was the moment where everything would either collapse or she would find a way to salvage what was left of her world. Thomas sat down across from her at the table, his eyes searching hers. "I've been thinking a lot, and I can't ignore it anymore. You're not acting like yourself. You're hiding something. I don't want to pressure you, but I need to know what's really going on." Mia felt the walls around her heart start to crumble. She wanted to tell him. She wanted to admit the truth, to get the weight off her chest. But the words stuck in her throat, as if her own lies were blocking her from speaking. "I don't want to lie to you anymore," she whispered. "But I'm scared. I'm terrified of losing everything." Thomas's face softened. "What do you mean?" "I'm not pregnant, Thomas," Mia blurted out, the words rushing out like a flood. I faked it. I wanted to be the perfect person. I wanted to feel loved and needed, and I thought if I was pregnant, if I was carrying our child, you would love me more. You would see me as enough. Her voice broke, and she wiped away a tear that had escaped. For a moment, Thomas was silent. His expression shifted, a mix of shock, disappointment, and something else Mia couldn't place. He leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. "Why, Mia?" he asked quietly. "Why did you do this?" Mia closed her eyes, ashamed. "I don't know. I got caught up in the idea of it. I wanted a life I thought I couldn't have. I wanted to feel important. I was scared, Thomas. I didn't know how to deal with everything that was going on in my head." Thomas's voice was strained, but he didn't raise it. "I don't understand. Why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you tell me you were scared? I would have helped you." Mia shook her head. "I couldn't. I thought it was too late by then. I was too deep in. The more I lied, the harder it became to tell the truth. And now everything is falling apart, and I can't stop it." There was a long pause, a heavy silence that seemed to stretch for eternity. Then Thomas spoke again, his voice low and steady. "Mia, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to hear, but I need you to know this. Lying to me, to Jessica, to yourself, it's not love, it's fear. And fear isn't going to get us through this." Mia felt her heart shatter. She had known this was coming, but hearing it, hearing the finality in his voice, made it real. This wasn't just about her and Thomas anymore. This was about everything she had lost, everything she had broken. "Can you ever forgive me?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know," Thomas replied. "I need time, but I want to help you. I don't want to see you destroy yourself, Mia, but I can't keep living in a lie. I need the truth from you, and I need you to take responsibility for what you've done." Mia nodded, tears streaming down her face. She knew she had ruined everything. She had lost Thomas, lost her best friend, and lost herself along the way. The next few days were filled with silence. Mia retreated into herself, feeling like a shell of the person she once was. She knew she couldn't fix what she had done, but she also knew she had to start facing the consequences. No more lies, no more pretending. She reached out to Jessica, sending her a message asking if they could talk. Jessica agreed to meet up at a coffee shop, and Mia arrived early, nervously tapping her fingers on the table. She wasn't sure how Jessica would react. Would she still be angry, or would she forgive her? When Jessica arrived, she sat down across from Mia, her expression guarded. She didn't speak at first, letting the silence hang between them. Mia could feel the weight of the moment. This was it. This was her chance to make things right, even if she couldn't fix everything. "I owe you an apology, Jessica," Mia began, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "I lied to you. I've been pretending this whole time. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I was only fooling myself, and I hurt you in the process." Jessica looked at her for a long moment before speaking. "I don't know what to say, Mia. I feel betrayed, but I also know that you're hurting. You've been lying to me, to Thomas, to everyone, but most of all, you've been lying to yourself." Mia nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I know. I was scared, and I thought this would make everything better, but it only made everything worse. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it anyway." Jessica reached across the table and took Mia's hand. "I'm not sure how long it will take for me to forgive you, but I'm not giving up on you. But you have to do the work. You have to face the consequences, Mia, and you have to be honest with yourself from now on." Mia nodded, tears welling up again. "I will, I promise." As she left the coffee shop that day, Mia felt like she was standing on the edge of something. She didn't know where her life was going or what would happen next, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was starting to be honest with herself. The truth, no matter how painful, was the only way forward.